Hello, everybody. This is Bronson for thegameraccess.com at Microsoft's Spring Showcase 2016, and I'm here with Miloš, production director of Quantum Break.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So, tell us, what is Quantum Break? Because a lot of the trailers have been very vague. What's the story? What's the gameplay? What's the general overall tone of it?
Okay, so Quantum Break is the ultimate Remedy game. We were always dreaming of creating something like Quantum. It's a really story-heavy, character-driven third-person action game with live action show as another element of the game. So for us, it's really important that the live action is actually not only something like different cutscene. No, the live action is looking into the story of the game from completely different perspective. The game is through the eyes of the heroes. As in the show, you are watching the villains going throughout the story and following your steps.
Okay, so what is the base narrative? Like, what is the setup for Quantum Break?
Okay, so Jack Joyce is coming back to Riverport, to his hometown, as his friend Paul Serene is calling him that he has something important to talk about, and he needs his help. So he's coming to the University of Riverport and finding out the time machine and helping out Paul Serene to set it up. But things are going horribly wrong, and his brother is appearing on the scene, and the experiment is falling apart, and the game, the world is getting to the stutter. The stutter is basically a permanent state or dynamic state, depending on the type of the stutter, that freezes everything around you, including the whole world. So, just a couple of guys who are having the special abilities, like Jack or Paul, can actually operate inside the stutters, as well as the faction of Monarch, the bad guys who are appearing on the scene, driven by Paul, and appearing as with abilities to actually move inside the stutter and having their own reasons for fighting towards Jack and getting over him.
Okay, so the thing I noticed when I was watching the gameplay demo is like they kind of had control over the stutter and things like that, or at least some things in it. Is that the case, or could you explain that to me?
So the stutter is basically a moment when everything freezes. The time is frozen in a moment and can violently jump from place to place, from minute to minute, and creates a really dangerous place for the mankind. Paul, Serene, and Jack, they have abilities that actually allows them to operate full in the stutter. Even take certain objects or people outside to be in a normal timeline.
Okay, so I was wondering what that was in the gameplay. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to bring up was the actual gameplay itself. It seems kind of like a real dynamic shooter mixed with maybe some other set-piece elements thrown in. Could you talk about that, how like the abilities work with the kind of more shooter elements?
So our goal was to not be just another third-person shooter. We wanted to come up with something new. And as you said, our goal is to keep player in movement. So it's not possible to just duck into a cover and shoot on the enemies. No way. That's why you have time powers. They will actually keep you in movement. The enemies are trying to flashing you out, and to stay alive against all the odds, you need to keep moving. You need to use your time powers as good as you can to actually stay outside of the threat and get down to the enemies.
So one thing that I was wondering about was, does this take influences from other media? Because your previous game, Alan Wake, kind of had a Twin Peaks vibe to it. I'm not sure if you were the ones who worked on American Nightmare, but that was obviously Twilight Zone. In fact, I called it Twilight Zone the game. Does this take any influences from other media, other time travel things?
Of course, Remedy is known for using pop culture as a huge influence for our games. So we have multiple movies, games, and other medias that we were going through and taking ideas from to create the ultimate experience. And especially in our case, with the show as an element, we had to look into other TV shows and take some examples on how to create the best possible stuff.
Is there anything multiplayer, leaderboard kind of stuff, anything that connects the game to the internet really in a meaningful way?
So there is no remedy. The Quantum Break is actually a single-player experience only. But we have some elements that are actually allowing you to check out progress of other players throughout the Xbox Live, as well as the junctions where you're actually deciding for the future. You can check out what actually your friends decided, what your community overall decided for, and to see how many players actually go through this way or that way. So we have some small features behind the junctions and other options that are actually Xbox Live specifics, but we don't have multiplayer elements otherwise.
All right, so the junctions, that's the points in the story where it breaks away and you choose multiple paths. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Telltale or Heavy Rain or games kind of like that. Could you tell us more about that? Is it going to be more like a Telltale experience where, like, at the end of a junction, it's like, well, 78% of people pick this, well, 12% pick this? Or is it going to be more like Heavy Rain where it's like one choice branches off into like 14 different paths and that ends up being like 20, I think that game had like 25 different endings. So is it something like more like that?
Okay, so junction is the moment when you actually play as Paul Serene, as the main bad guy, and you are deciding what will be the future of some of the characters of the game. We have 4 different junctions, and after every single junction, you have a show episode that plays, and it's driven by the changes you decided in the junction. Globally, we have 16 different variations, plus we have a couple of other quantum ripples and other elements that actually can change content in the game or in the show. So at the end, we have roughly 40 different variations on the show that can actually be played, and the same goes actually for the game. The end is always the same, but the events that are happening during that, and even the characters, some of the NPCs, they can actually completely vaporize from the game if you decided one or the other way.
So that's obviously what's going to give it its replay value over time and whatnot. Okay, well, the game looks excellent, and thank you. And it's coming out when?
It's coming out 5th of April.
All right, game looks awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
This has been Bronson at the Gamer Access at the Microsoft Spring Showcase 2016.